Furloughing. Will HMRC investigate? In total, the furlough will have cost something like £100 billion. It's so much money. So I think it's inevitable that the revenue will be making investigations to make sure that that money is being claimed correctly. And that's what I'm going to look at in this video. If you're new to my channel, then please consider subscribing. And if you press the like button, it really helps me. So with the furlough, when we think about investigations by HMRC, I think the first thing we need to do is just understand how HMRC investigations are done. Now, they're different to disputes in a normal commercial setting, because if you've got a dispute with a supplier or a customer, you'll sort it out, you'll have a phone call, you'll sort it out in a month, well, in a year, well, certainly in 2 years, you'll have sorted it out and you'll have forgotten about it. But that's not the case with an HMRC investigation. They wait for the dust to have settled, you to be happy with your returns, and then they will look into things not even normally 1 year, normally 2 or 3 years after they've taken place. So the first thing that you've got to remember is that the furlough that you're doing now might be investigated in, say, 3 years' time. So the importance of keeping records is paramount, and you must be able to keep those records so you can remember. You can remember when you've even forgotten all about furloughing, you can still remember what you did. And I think this is particularly difficult in the first period of the furlough, when the way it was being done was still sort of being invented. We were sort of struggling with how do you work it all out? And the rules seem to change on a weekly basis. So I think it's important to write down and have records of why you did things at a particular time, because I think that is the primary defense, that you followed the rules as you understood them at the time, because it was a fast evolving circumstance. So that's the first thing. Keep really good records and justify why you did things. So the next thing I think we need to understand is just how tax normally works. So tax works under self-assessment, that you claim what you're supposed to claim, and then the revenue may deem to check it. But the responsibility for doing things correctly is yours, not the revenue. So you must do things correctly. Obviously, using the revenue website as the guiding principle is a primary source and a primary defense, but ultimately it's your responsibility to do things correctly. Now, within an investigation, yeah, it sounds quite scary, and to some extent it is, and maybe you'll have a sleepless night the day before they come in. I understand that. But at the end of the day, if you've done nothing wrong, you follow the rules, then you're okay. Now, I think what we're mostly worried about in an investigation is that you might just get one little thing wrong, which would be really easy to do, which is where I go back to the justification. But if you've done everything more or less right, and the revenue can see that you've made every effort to get things right, then that is the primary defence. And I've never seen them going down hard on somebody who's tried to do the right thing. So next, I'd like to think about what I would do to check it if I was an HMRC investigator. So I think the first thing I'll do is I'd get my computer out and I'll do some comparisons. So I'll take all the businesses in your sector, all the accountancy firms, all the hotels, all of the engineering firms, and I would compare them and see what percentage of their labour they furloughed. And where something's an outlier, then I'll have a look at it. So in accountancy, not very many people have been furloughed. So if somebody's furloughed all their staff, I'll have a look at that. If you're a hotel and you furloughed all your staff, then that's sort of expected. So I'd do that test. And there's also another IT test I could do. I could take all the VAT returns, and I could take all the corporation tax returns, the income tax returns, and I could look at the turnover, and I could see if the turnover had gone down or it had not gone down. So if you got the same amount of turnover and you furloughed all your staff, then that's just suspicious. So I'd have a look at that. So I'd make some IT things and then look at the outliers. I'm sure that they'll be doing that. The next thing that I would do is I would look for obvious errors, because obvious errors indicate carelessness although a defence is you're trying to do the best thing, the revenue also don't like people to do their tax returns carelessly. So I'll be looking for carelessness, because that might be an indicator, small errors that would be an indicator of carelessness that I'd want to investigate. So I would probably have a look at that. But that's not the biggie. I don't think it is. Because I think the big thing is people claiming for staff that simply weren't furloughed. I think there's some anecdotal evidence that people were doing one of two things. They were either making people work and telling them that they were furloughed, or that they were simply claiming the furlough and not even telling the staff. So getting the staff to work, not telling them about the furlough, just claiming the money, which is possible to do. Now, I'm not recommending it, but I do know that it is possible to do, and it is a criminal act. So, but I think that that's where the big money is for the revenue. So I think they'll be really alert to that. So how would I check for that if I was an HMRC investigator? Well, I've heard some rumours that one of the things that they're doing is they're going to ring up employees and ask them if they were furloughed or not. So that'd be quite a good way of doing it. It's quite labour intensive though. Another way of doing it is simply to write to all furloughed employees and ask them, were you furloughed between these dates? And that's a really easy thing for the revenue to do. So they've got this huge database, they can send letters out like no tomorrow, it's really cheap for them to do. And then they can find out what they get, and where they get groups of people who are saying, oh, I wasn't furloughed, then they can go and check it. And I think that they will be doing that. So those are two main ways. And you've got to remember with these employees, they were employees at the time of the furlough, but by the time the revenue is investigating, they may no longer be employees of yours and have no loyalty to you. They may feel that they've been ripped off, so they may feel aggrieved. They may also be in dispute with you, because employees sometimes are in dispute, or they've left on unfriendly terms. So all of that should be considered. So what do you do? Well, I understand that at the first time when furlough is going on, we're all pretty scared. We were all scared because the whole COVID thing was a complete change in the way we did everything. And I, for one, was scared about my own finances, even though they're really solid. I was still scared about them. And I think most people were. And actually, the most prudent people were the most scared, because we're just not used to having something so out of control. So I think in that feeling of scared, I think there may have been people who would normally never do anything that's not correct, who might have just played a bit with the furlough. So my answer to them is just get your records straight now. So if you've overclaimed, just own up to it, get it straight, give back the money, and you'll be okay. You can sleep at night for the next 3 years when they could investigate, and just get it right. I mean, if you've done it on a grander scale, you probably need to talk to your advisor and just see how the best way to do it, and maybe even talk to the revenue. But what I do know is that if you own up to anything with the revenue, it's so much better than if they catch you. And I think that, yeah, they want a whole load of revenue from this. They want to claim back anything that's been done incorrectly, and they will seek fines on that money as well, and interest. But I think that they would like to get a few criminal convictions as well, because I think that would really frighten people into doing it correctly in the future. So my advice is, first of all, keep really good records. Make sure you haven't overclaimed. And if you have overclaimed, just get it right now. Thank you for watching and listening. You'll be very welcome if you want to subscribe to the channel, and pressing the like button. It really helps me. Thank you.